Hi everyone, welcome to Weekend Convos with Dan. Today our guest is Naomi from Super Dooper Poo, and we were talking a little bit about poo. We had a great talk about climate change and where things are actually at and why we need to make a change, but also how we can make a change and how we can make a positive difference. I'm sure you're going to love the episode. I know I did. Look forward to talking to you soon. Hey everyone, welcome to Weekend Convos with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Vanderhoek, and we are here with Naomi from Super Dooper Poo. Naomi, thank you for having us out.
That's okay.
So we're going to talk a bit of shit.
All day.
Excellent. So Naomi, first up, I want to ask, so the poo lady.
Yes.
How did this happen?
I have no idea. It was clearly not something I came out of high school thinking I'm going to become the poo lady.
It wasn't that something you filled out? It wasn't a number you called in the classifieds or anything like that?
No. And it's terrifying. My daughter's just mortified. She doesn't go anywhere with me anymore because she's like, "Give it to the poo lady." But I've had to learn to embrace it, I guess, because I'm looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that if I can help people improve their gardens or their block or whatever it is that they're working on, it would be nice. I always think, what am I going to my grave thinking? And I guess as much as being the poo lady wasn't a priority, I guess I like it because if I can help people help the planet and I get 1,000 people out there helping the planet, I've probably done my bit. Yeah,
look, I think that's just for the starters, that's just a fantastic mission statement and way you wanted to go, that idea of I'm doing what I can to help the planet. And so you've basically, fallen into this by accident. So now we've talked before, off camera and other times about just the fact that your love for animals has essentially pushed this upon you.
It has, yeah. Believe it or not, I was probably the poo lady when I was about 8. I used to drag my poor friend Tammy down to the golf club with bags of horse poo, and we'd stand there selling pony poo to the poor unsuspecting golfers on a Saturday morning. That's
rather enterprising. That's great.
Yeah, we thought so, and then we just blow it all on lollies. But at the time we thought it was a great business. Yeah. Because I've had horses since I was 3, and I grew up in Noosa with parents in real estate. So back before capital gains, so you could buy a house on Friday and sell it on Tuesday. But Dad used to always make a house settle on generally the Thursday before school holiday. So if that happened, I pretty much knew what I was doing for the next 2 weeks, which was landscaping gardens, and I did it all on horse poo. So I guess in a lot of ways I should blame Dad. Yeah. But I guess I had an interest in regenerating things and using manures from a very early age. I just didn't realise it at the time.
Yeah.
But then from there, I went off and did a million other things, and ended up, I keep getting dragged back to Gympie. I keep leaving, I keep getting dragged back, so I've kind of stopped fighting it.
It's one of those places you hear that a lot. Gympie always calls you home. So.
I know why, yeah. It's a beautiful town and I really do love it, but I have been quite determined in leaving, and I just get sucked back into it. So it's okay. I've stopped fighting, but because I've got so many animals, and because I do I guess I have a big enough ego to think that I look after them better than most people. And I like animals, and animals seem to really like me. I have had some of the most amazing random wildlife stories you could begin to imagine.
Yeah. Come on, give us a taste.
Okay, well, years ago, I stupidly, if you remember, I don't know if they still have it because I haven't got real TV anymore, but they used to have those late night, you auction off holiday vouchers, and you pay a random price and the top 5 get the voucher. Well, I was up really late one night and I thought, I'm going to pay $135 for this and see how I go. And I had no idea where we were going, and it was Kangaroo Island.
Yeah.
And we were up near Melbourne, and I didn't have a clue. I thought, I can't be too far away. It was about a 14-hour drive. But anyway, we got it for $135, and I took my flatmate and I, and because Kangaroo Island's full of amazing wildlife, this little baby seal got lost, and we were doing a bit of a seal tour.
Yeah.
And the tour guide, because he's actually beelining straight at me, and I can hear Mum on the beach screaming her lungs out, like, get back here, you rotten little snot. And he's running up the up the boardwalk straight at me, and she's this wildlife. The tour guides, don't touch him, and I've crouched down and just sort of said, mate, you're a bit lost, and he's come up and literally full on football tackled me and given me this massive big cuddle, and in the cuddling of knocking me over, I've thrown my arms around him, and she's tour guide still screaming, stop touching him, and I'm thinking, you're looking at what's going on here. It's
touched me first.
He's the one inappropriately touching me. Like, he's laying all over the top of me. Anyway, I basically held his head and we walked back down to the boulevard, down the boardwalk, and gave him back to Mum, who wasn't very impressed that he'd taken off. But, I mean, he was a completely wild seal, and out of the 60-odd people in the crew that were on the tour, he just had to pick me to be the person to come and ask for assistance.
Yeah, yeah.
That sort of stuff happens to me all the time.
It's kind of it's obviously a destiny thing, you know. Obviously, this is what you were meant to do is actually getting in there with animals and and caring for them.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know why, but I really, down to my cellular level, I just couldn't be without some sort of animal in my life.
Yeah.
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 And then of course that's just led me on to how, like, rather than how to use an animal, how can I have them, treat them well, feed them well, rug them, do all the things that I'm doing with them and still pay the bills. So it's a yin and yang. Like, they're giving me the manure and I'm giving them a safe place. Like we were just talking about Susan there. She has no idea what real cows put up with. She thinks she's living the worst life of all because I'm not feeding her second breakfast right at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, no, she has no real sense of perception of what cows go through. But I think that's nice. Like, again, if I can go to my grave, and I often think, not that I'm a religious person, a bit more of a cosmic gypsy, but I think if I go to my grave and all these souls meet me, I want them to meet me thinking that they liked me. I don't want them to meet me and give me a long list of things that I did wrong.
Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. I think it's one of those things you just brought up, Susan. So I think we might just get in and start talking about her a little bit. Susan, we had a look at a bit of a meet and greet when we first got here, and make sure you check out the video on the YouTube channel if you haven't already. So little plug there. So so Susan is how old now?
She's just had her 25th birthday.
See, that's incredible for a cow.
So I'm being told, yeah.
Yeah. What, in terms of what most people would think would be an average age, what's?
Well, even cattle farmers sort of think a cow's done and dusted by about 11.
Yeah.
Because they don't keep them any longer than that. Like, the meat quality isn't obviously what they're chasing if you've got an 11-year-old cow. I know some dairy farmers, days gone by, have had cows up until their late 20s. Yeah. But I guess those days are gone too, in that dairy farmers don't keep them to that length of time.
That's all production.
It is. And I won't name the show, but an ABC show that's all about farming. I stopped watching it the day that they had a guy come on and he was standing in the middle of a cow yard and he was talking about the product, and I thought, they're not a product yet, mate. They're a cow. They're an animal. And when you consider that a cow's closest relative is the dolphin, I find it bizarre that we run down the beach in droves to save one, and yet we line the other one up and don't care less. Yeah. That just, to me, we're very discriminatory as a species, and I think when we can get ourselves past that, I'm not against killing animals. I understand that the need for it, but I think we could do it a hell of a lot better and be a lot more respectful for the actual individual animal and understand what we're doing to them. Absolutely. Because they're not product. They're a highly intelligent animal. Yeah.
Well, I think that's really what the basis of a lot of what we're trying to do with the podcast is we're talking about the idea of ethical farming. Yeah. And regenerative farming is being ethical farming. Yeah. But it comes down to the same thing about how you look after your animals, how you look after the environment, how you look after people, how you look after ducks, chickens, everything as part of the local ecosystem. Yeah.
Well, we're all part of the chain, aren't we? And to be quite honest with you, if you think of it, humans are actually the part that could go missing. We're actually not really required on this planet. Everything else has a part, but we don't.
In a lot of ways, things would be a lot better off.
Immediately. And that saddens me that we are actually... I was actually down here in the stables one day and it hit me. We don't put anything back on this planet that's positive. There's nothing that we do on this part, and yet there's so many of us, and we have this idea that we're entitled to it, and that the planet's here for our use and our purposes. But even our poo, like our own, everything we excrete is actually toxic.
Yeah.
So even if we're putting our poo back, it's not even worthwhile.
Yeah.
The planet, like, there's nothing that we do that could be considered positive unless we're actually actively looking to do positive things.
Yeah.
If we're just living our day-to-day life, we've got 7.8 billion of us that are just dragging this planet, and she can't sustain it.
Yeah.
There's just no way you can. I mean, mozzies, people say, oh, you know, there's 60 million mozzies. Yeah, but mozzies don't put out 20 tonne of carbon a year.
That's very true. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so in terms of saying that, where does what you're doing fit into this?
Well, I've had a few people come up to me, you know, with the whole methane gas. Oh, you've got all these cattle doing methane gas. And I think, yeah, okay, I've got like less than 400. If you go to a feedlot, they've got 22, somewhere between 15 and 27,000.
Yeah.
But they're there because people are eating them.
Yep.
So there's just so many things we could do that if we did them differently would make a massive difference. Like I was talking to a friend in the States and she said to me, well, give me something I could do. And I said, well, then do a campaign, because she's got a big social media following.
Yep.
And I said, okay, do a media campaign where you don't buy your meat at the supermarket, buy it from your local butcher, and have a standard fortnight order.
Yep.
And if he can get 50% of his customers with a standard fortnight order, he knows exactly how much meat to buy.
Yeah.
Which means that cattle aren't being slaughtered for no good reason.
There's not stuff going bad. There's not. Yeah, yeah.
So, and if you're going to have a special order, let him know. Like if you know, someone's birthday's on the same day. If you know you're having a big party, let him know 4 weeks out so that he can actually order a little bit more meat. You know, and again, I'm not anti people eating meat. I don't eat a lot of it myself personally, but clearly I don't eat. Like it's only if I go out somewhere and someone's prepared something, I'm not going to sort of go, oh, we're vegetarian and we want to rub you up the wrong way. Yeah. We actually, I mean, I love meat. I love the taste of it, but I just find it hard to eat because I've got cattle, and it sounds really, what's the word? I can't think of it.
It sounds. You're saying it's going to sound hypocritical.
That's the one, hypocritical. Yeah. But I'm not at home here. We don't eat it. We don't eat chicken. Clearly, we've got chooks and ducks running around everywhere. We've all got names. So we don't. But if I'm out, I just don't. I don't want to make people feel bad. It's already there. It's plated. So we'll eat it. And I do.
Once again, you're not going to let it go to waste.
No, exactly. Because if people starving in the world, there's the other side of the coin. So I'm not going to sort of say no, put that in the bin. I'm going to be obnoxious. I'll eat it. You know.
Yeah.
But. So she started this campaign in the States, and the butchers have gotten on board with it, and sort of they're now playing around with it. So she thinks she's got about 10% of America actually ordering their food, and it's making an enormous difference because, and particularly here in Australia, we as people we're like terrified. Look at the toilet roll debacle.
Yeah.
You know, like the second that things get scarce in Australia, we become ridiculous. So the second supermarkets don't want you to think you're ever going to run out of food, so they oversupply.
Yeah.
Whereas again, if you went to your butcher and he knows you've got a standard, he knows what you're going to order, so he can, you know, it means you're not costing him money because he's not wasting anything.
Yeah.
So he can actually then lower his prices. There's so much spin-off of you just turning up and saying, look, pretty much this is what we eat every fortnight, so this is what we need.
So and the flip side of that is too is you can now be yes, the prices can get lower or the quality can go up.
Yeah.
You can be getting you grass fed and your pasture animals rather than actually going through your feedlot animals.
Yeah. I know I did talk to a store many years ago, a big supermarket chain, and this was one branch, and I was talking to the meat manager, and they said they have a license to write off $300,000 a year.
Yeah, wow.
And it wasn't a big store.
Yeah,
and he said that you get into the cities, they've got a bigger margin of write-off. So that's think about how much $300,000 worth of cow. That's a lot of cows that have been killed for no good reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if we got better at it, there's so many ways we could just get better at it.
Yeah.
And instantly, like if we followed like a 60-point plan and we all did it, overnight we could change what's happening to this planet.
Wow, that's such an amazing thought. It really is.
And it's so simple.
It's easy. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All
right. No worries. We need to start something like this coming up. Going into throughout Australia as well. Obviously, that started in America.
Yeah.
There has been that big push to to be buying stuff from your butcher, to be buying stuff from your local your greengrocer, to buy stuff from those different places. We need to take it to that next level, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
And and people sort of go, oh, but that's inconvenience. Well, my motto at this point in my life is you can either be mildly inconvenienced now by what's happening on the planet, or you can be massively inconvenienced in 20 years' time.
Yeah, 100%.
I was reading yesterday. I got some stats through, and I did a bit of a post on my Super Dooper Poo page, which I'm not really plugging. So I'm just mentioning I did a post on it.
Make sure you like the Super Dooper Poo page.
Super Dooper Poo. I do have a lot of posts on there about that, not necessarily just to do with poo and gardening. It's about the bigger scheme, because we need to look at what we can do, but we need to also be able to look at how that's going to connect into a bigger scheme without sounding like I'm working in corporate and we do subcommittees and implementation plans and all that. It's basically, but anyway, I'll talk about that a bit later on. But it's look at what you can do yourself, but then look at how you can influence other people to do the same thing. And I always think lead from the front. That was one of Dad's mottos, was always lead from the front. So, and that's what that's what I'm trying to live, that life of leading from the front myself. I forgot my train of thought there. I'm sorry. Move on. I'm sure it'll come back to me. I'm sorry. I'm having a blonde moment now. Look out.
No, that's all right. But I think where you're going really is that idea of, if you can create an example for people, you can go and you can show that these things are possible without disrupting your life ridiculously or anything like that. Other people are going to follow. And, I think that's really an inspirational idea. Yeah,
well, I'll tell you a really quick story. I've got a pair of glasses I paid $5 for. I really probably should go to an optometrist and get real glasses, but the $5 ones work. I was at the expo a couple of weeks ago, and a guy said to me, really? They're your glasses? Because, both of the glasses were chipped. Yeah, and I could see out of them. They're all right, but they're plastic. And I just thought, again, plastic – the first piece of plastic that was ever made still has 352 years before it will be broken down.
Yeah. So, that's unreal.
And we're just spewing plastic into the atmosphere, without even thinking about what kind of plastic. I mean, Tim Tam biscuits, lovely, but look at how because they don't want them to be busted. We're too fussy. We've got to get over that fussiness and thinking that because I'm special, I'm entitled to have everything that's the best.
So much stuff is just over packaged and whatnot, and you're seeing, the packet of potato chips. I often remember as a kid thinking I was being ripped off because you'd open the packet and it's only a third full. And it's because it's pumped up full of air, so the chips don't break.
Yeah, and because then the packet looks bigger.
That's right.
To be honest with you, and I I bought some muffins. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning Sunday, and I actually went into a supermarket, and I was starving. I hadn't eaten anything, and it was about 5 o'clock, and I thought, I'm going to grab those 6 muffins. And I got them home, and I'm actually disgusted with myself that I bought them, not because the muffins weren't nice. They were actually very tasty. We haven't eaten them all, but I've eaten some. But the packaging, it's just so over-plasticked. And I thought, I'm an idiot. Why did I buy those? Like, my way of protesting, and again, if you've got 10,000 people not buying those muffins and walking up to the bakery, the department, and say, hey, I'm not buying them because they're wrapped up in too much plastic, fix it.
Yeah,
find another way to make it happen.
Quickly.
They will change.
Yeah.
But people sort of are so busy getting on with their lives, we've lost that ability to complain about everything. And you don't want to sound like a Karen, and I'm certainly not a Karen, but in the 70s, like if you look at your student unions, if the flowers didn't flower at the right time, they'd protest. You know, they protested over everything. But there was massive change in the 70s.
Yes.
Because people were driven to actually say what they thought. Whereas today we've become really compliant, and we just sort of, we're so busy just trying to get on. You know, I need the new car, and I need the big screen TV, and I need all the things that the neighbours have got. Well, do you really? Yeah,
keeping up with the Joneses idea is really,
And we're so busy doing it that we're not really realising that we're. I do a talk on climate change, and I use the Titanic, the scene of the Titanic just before she hits the iceberg as my analogy to it. Because it's actually amazing how that aligns with what we're going to go through with this planet. Okay. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Titanic, but when the two blokes are freezing their butts off in the cockatoo pit and the binoculars have gone missing, I kind of figured that's around about where they started with greenhouse gases when Lady Elaine, I don't know her last name, Elaine, she was Canadian. She actually discovered greenhouse gases, but because she was a woman and she wasn't a scientist, they didn't take her seriously.
No one was going to listen to her. Yeah. A
guy then published the paper 6 years later, exactly, pretty much word for what she said, and he got all the recognition for it because he was a man and he was a scientist. But it was called greenhouse gases because she discovered it in a greenhouse. And she said in 120 years this planet's going to be in a world of hurt. Yeah. Well, she wasn't far off because she was about 1880, I think, 1880. 1984, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So she was pretty bang on, considering she had no idea how we were going to develop. So I kind of consider that was, like, if you think they're standing there, they're freezing, they're focused on themselves, they're not really too concerned about what the rest of the place is doing, they're not seeing what's right in front of them, they're not really looking, but everything went wrong. The binoculars weren't there. The arrogance of the captain thinking he should go full steam ahead because he wanted to impress people. The fact that they knew there was an iceberg out there, but they weren't really looking for it. So I kind of think, well, that's about the 1880s where people were realising that we're having an effect on the planet. Then in that moment, and it's really, to me, like, if you're looking at it from a climate change as an analogy, where that one guy hones in and you can see him thinking, is that an iceberg?
Yeah.
I kind of consider that's about the 1980s when you had the Dr. Suzukis and the David Attenboroughs and, Stephen Hawking's and all those guys, like, not just guys, there were obviously women in there too. I just can't think any of them anyway. Yeah. Who were sort of saying, hang on, we are going to hit an iceberg. And they spot it, and they know that he at that moment when he sees it and he thinks, is that an iceberg? And then that second later where he thinks, oh, holy cow, that is an iceberg. That to me is the point where I kind of consider that in the 80s.
Yeah.
Then when they swing around and he screams iceberg and the first mate hears him, that's kind of, I think, we're like the 10% of people that are realising that there was a problem.
Yeah.
But they don't react real fast. And then you've got the guy on the flywheel, because it's not his job to answer the phone, so he doesn't.
Yes.
Well, there's seconds that were wasted.
Yeah.
And those seconds, those 4 or 5 seconds where it's not my job to answer, could have made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Like, they may have been able to, they would have hit the iceberg, but they may not have hit it as hard.
Yep.
But it wasn't his job. And I kind of consider that
he got complacent.
That's pretty much the masses. It's not my job to fix it.
Yeah.
I may be a small part of the problem, but why do I have to fix it? I'll leave it up to governments to do it.
Someone else is doing it worse than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So then when they swing, that moment where they swing and they think, because they haven't tested it, they don't know. They don't know how well this thing can turn. They didn't get her out and run her at full steam. They were arrogant enough to just assume that they'd know how to drive her when she was on. And when they swing, and that panic moment where, like the engine rooms where they hit reverse, ding, 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 reverse, and that engine room buzzes in.
Yeah.
I think that should be now. Because I think we should have, at that point where the engine room clearly knew, everybody in the engine room knew they were in trouble.
Yes.
And that swing where the pistons are winding down, and that split second where she stops, and you just sit, from where I'm standing, I'm thinking to myself, oh, holy cow, oh, holy cow, oh, holy cow, swing, swing, swing. And she runs back into reverse. I kind of think that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
We have a very, very small window where we can repair this planet enough that we can ride through, because it's going to be a rough passage. There's no two ways about it. We are about to hit the iceberg.
Yeah.
How hard we hit it and how far away it is till we hit it is entirely up to us in the next 5 years. And if we don't put an enormous amount of effort in, and it doesn't matter if you're living in New York or London, you can find projects out there, but it's, again, a hard one to find, because there's a lot of people can see the opportunity to make tons of money out of this and not really do a lot of good. But there are some genuine programs out there. Again, without plugging, I'm planting rainforest trees, and people can pay me to do it. It's not a plug; it's just an opportunity. But you do have to dig really hard. But we're at that point now where the pistons are stopped, and we're in that poised little tiny gap where we have that opportunity. If we don't really throw everything we've got at it now, we're going to hit hard.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. So, Naomi, we've talked a lot about how the world's going, where things are going.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about poo too much.
Okay, we can talk about poo.
Let's talk about poo. Let's talk about essentially why we reached out to you in the first place. Is because we'd heard a lot about your Super Dooper Poo.
Okay.
So, you got into that with by taking various animals and whatnot on your property.
Yep.
Because you're a bleeding heart. So you got through and did that. Now you supply poo all over the place.
We do. I've had actually some go to Tasmania, and I've had some go to South Australia. So
wow.
In the back of a car.
Yeah. So what is it about, and what's the benefits that you've got, and why do you do it?
Well, I do it because as I say, I mean, I sound like I've got it's a one horse race here, but I realised I can only plant so much rainforest. I'm 53, and I'm not quite worn out yet, but I can only, as an individual, do one thing. To begin with, I kind of started it off because I just thought I need to make some money and put food on the table and be able to pay for the power. But then I sort of thought, I'm out there like a mad dog with me 2 buckets of water at 4:30 in the morning through summer, lugging water around these poor little trees to try and get them growing. And I thought, I can only do so much. Whereas it's one of those things, if I can actually, instead of being the whole puddle, if I can just be the drop in the puddle that has that ripple effect, and I can supply people with genuinely good products in order to do it themselves, create a better environment, even if they're only on an 800 square metre block. If you can maximise what you can put on that block, I thought it's like many chefs kind of thing. One chef can only cook a certain number of meals, but if I've got 1,000 chefs out there, we can make a big difference. So then I thought, well, okay, I'm pretty competitive in that, not necessarily with other people, but I'm competitive in myself. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to produce really good poo. So in order to do that, my guys get fed pretty well. They get fed better than most horses. We've got big sheds out there. The older crew, the oldies, because they don't actually ever come out of the sheds. It's too cold in winter and too hot in summer, so they just kind of eat and lay down in the shed, which is good for me because then I just get in and scoop the poo up, so I don't have to go looking for it. So then I thought, well, nature knows what she's doing, and you'll find a lot of people get in and want to interfere with machinery and stuff, and I just think that just seems to change the whole just the whole process gets manipulated. And as humans, we seem to think we're an expert at everything. We micromanage the death out of everything, and I just think Mother Nature's been doing this for a really long time. She just doesn't need us to run interference. So basically I just pile it all up. I wet it, I turn it. If you look at my hands, because I do it all by hand, I'm pretty good on a shovel. I'm sure my shoulders will be in a nursing home. I'm just going to be laying there with my hands, and you have to feed me because I can't move my hands. I'm going to be a nightmare of a nursing home patient if I ever live that long. So I just try to go gently with it, and it seems for some reason to make an enormous difference. Everybody sort of says to me, I buy all these products, but your stuff just works. Works really well. And I think I'm following the guidelines that have been around for 320 million years. I'm just looking at it that I'm more of an instrument to make it, to assist the system. I'm not overriding it and telling it how to work.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a big part, big important thing in doing that, and being that part and that cog in the wheel. Yeah. Because what used to be, like you said, the natural process eons ago. Yeah. Was going through and using the manure from your animals. Now, not everybody's got animals now. We don't have the space for them and things like that. So to be able to do that and be able to provide that for people for their gardens, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
And it's amazing the number of people that I'll run into, just even down the street somewhere, and not necessarily here in town, but I can be somewhere absolutely random, and they'll go, "Oh, you're the poo lady. I've seen the post of you on the back of the truck with your dogs." And I'm thinking, I film stuff, and the dogs will be on the back of the truck running amok behind me. They're like naughty 8-year-old kids, and I'm completely oblivious, and it's often quite a comedy routine. But anyway. And then they'll start showing me photos. Oh, I got a friend to come and get some poo off you, and look at my veggies. And then I get all these photos of people's veggies, and I used to think, oh, do I really want to look at that? And I wasn't being nasty, but I've got my own veggies I can look at, and I know the result. But then I thought, no, actually, it is. I really enjoy it, because if I can get people enthused by getting back into nature and even just growing your own veggies to understand how hard it is. Yeah, like it's not an easy exercise. No. Because even if they only do it once or twice, it just means that when they go to the grocery store and get a cauliflower, they realise how much effort goes into growing that one cauliflower, and then hopefully they don't waste any of it. Yes. And then they compost the bits that they don't use. And again, that's just a small, tiny thing, but if everybody did it,
that'll make a massive difference. That's that drop in the ripple effect.
Yeah. So I do get excited when people, and then from veggies, it's like other things grow. So then they start to think, well, hang on, I've got all these native bushes out in the front that aren't doing very well. How come? And they'll come and talk to me. And if I can say to you, and I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing people, so if you can just ride with me here, I call it the 4 M's.
Yeah.
You need moisture, which is a bit hard because we've created an environment now that's causing us to be very dry. So we need moisture, we need manures, we need minerals, and we need mulch.
Yeah.
That basically is all you need.
Covers a lot. Yeah.
And in Australia, we have $1 billion mineral industry that we don't need.
Yep.
Because what's the one thing we export from Australia in mass?
It's coal.
And minerals.
Minerals, yeah.
You'd be surprised how many minerals actually get mined in Australia and get taken overseas. Minerals isn't the problem. It's just that you haven't got the organic matter to pick it up. You need the two to work in unison with each other.
Yeah.
So and to work with the soil you've got, if you're at Sunshine Beach, for instance, you're on sand, you're not going to grow roses. If you want to grow roses, you need to go back to Victoria because you're never going to grow them on Sunrise Beach.
Yeah.
So you've got to sort of say, okay, I'm here and I chose to be here. I have to grow what's local.
This is what's going to work in this environment.
But humans sort of have, and I've seen it in the last probably 5 years really in a big way. People have this idea that all soil has to be the same, and we're never going to get that across the planet. And if we do, we deserve, I think, everything that comes at us because that's not how the world's supposed to be.
That's right. Once again, the diversity is the key.
Yeah,
it needs to be different.
Yeah, and just work with what you've got. We're so busy battling. Like people come up to me and say, "I've got clay," and I'm like, "You're great," and they're like, "No." And they're looking at me like, you're a bit of an idiot. And I think, I'm not an idiot, but clay's full of minerals.
Yeah.
The problem is everyone's either through taking it, physically taking it with a bulldozer off, they've taken your topsoil off or just it's been eroded off. But you've got a really great base with clay. You've got you've got more minerals than you know what to do with. So now you actually build your own topsoil on top of that.
With clay, you've got water retention and everything as well.
There's huge bonuses with clay, but people are like, I'm going to get in and I've got to bust it up and I've got to do this. And it's like, why? And again, they look at me like I'm really strange. And I'm thinking, why fight with it? You can spend your entire life fighting with this tiny block of land that you've got, or you could do something new and just work with it.
Yep. It'd be much more productive and it's going to work better and it's going to be a lot less stress for you.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So, Naomi, I think that's really, really, really cool what you've been doing, and so people can get in touch with you and check you out on social media channels as well.
Yes, I'm on Facebook. I'm the most non-techie person you've ever met in your life, and if anything can ever go wrong, it'll go wrong for me. So I just stick with Facebook because I'm pretty average at all that sort of social media stuff. But yeah, on Facebook for sure. Yeah, and you'll find on there that I've got a phone number as well. So. Which is a landline because mobiles don't work out on the farm. So old-fashioned, you just leave me a message and when I get a second, I ring you back. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So people can order your products as well?
Yeah. So
what in particular, just quickly, what have you got that you're selling to people?
Okay, so I've got the composted cow poo. I've got mushroom compost. I do a potting mix because I'm sick of looking at the commercial potting mixes that people have. It's the biggest, anyway, I won't go into it. But it's not the world's best products, put it that way. Whereas I got sick of watching that walk out of the hardware store. So I've, since about 1980, I've been doing potting mixes for myself. And then I had an epiphany one day down here in the stables and thought, why don't I do potting mixes for other people? And so it's like, duh. I do a potting mix. And I sell blocks of koya, which is a coconut fibre, and mulch hay. I get a mate up the road who's got quite a few thousand acres, and time to time it's good grassy stuff. Hay. Yeah, I don't do things by halves, and I'd rather sell a good. If I can't get it, I won't sell it. Basically, I'd rather sell just good quality stuff. Yeah,
you've got to put your name behind it. So
that's it, and because I'm me and I'm flying solo, I have to face people. It's not like I can say, go talk to my complaints department or talk to someone in a different country and they don't care because they're getting paid money just to listen to you whinging. People actually have to come up to me and tell me if they like or don't. I've only ever had 2 complaints and they were kind of bizarre complaints anyway, so...
All right. Well, Naomi, look, thank you so much for having a chat with us today. I really, really appreciate that. We've been down here in your stables and your horse over here getting everyone's attention.
Yeah.
And so the others at the back of they've gone for a bit of a wander. So, but for all the people who are just listening rather than watching, so we've been down here in the stables. Now we've had quite a bit of wind here recently, so I hope you've stuck through us and haven't had too much noise coming through the microphones as we've been doing it. But no, we've really enjoyed this chat. And Naomi, for every guest that we have come on, we go through 6 questions. We have our 6 in 60.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So we've got six questions to go through. They're not. So the idea is to go through them, all of them in 60 seconds.
Holy dooly. Okay.
All right? So it's a bit of a challenge for you.
Don't talk too much, Naomi.
Well, hey, look, you at the end of the day, you do you. So
that means talk a lot.
All right. So what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Dogged determination.
Dogged determination. Nice. It's the best piece of advice you've ever received.
Bite off more than you can chew and chew like mad. That was Dad.
Love it. So if you could recommend one book or podcast to our audience, what would it be and why?
Besides yours?
Yeah.
I really like The Secret Life of Trees. I think that's an amazing book for people to get started with. And bizarrely enough, The Barefoot Investor. Yeah. Because he makes you tight and makes you think about every purchase that you ever make. And that in itself could be huge, because if we're not consuming it, we're not causing problems. Fantastic.
So what's got you really fired up right now?
The environment. If you haven't, I can't guess. I'm determined to educate as many people as I can, and I'm not going to fluff around with it. Yeah. I think there's enough people softly. I think probably somebody needs to get out there and say, you know what, this is actually how it's happening, and if you don't listen to me, we're in trouble.
All right. What's your personal goals for the next 12 months?
Plan out as many trees as I can. I've got a little rainforest going over there, the other side, Mum's place here. But probably, just keep planting trees. I'm out to improve this block of Mum's as much as I can in the next 12 months. Yeah.
All right. Last question, mystery question. If you could be looking after any animal in the world, what would it be and why? Any animal.
Any animal. Wow. There's so many. I don't know that I could pick one, to be honest. Can I be a bit of a Noah's Ark? I take 2 of everything.
Take the lot.
I mean, there's no animal I actually don't like. Quite seriously, I'm not a fan of snakes. We do have them here, and I've got 2 brown snakes that I know pretty well. I got one living under a water tank that we meet quite a bit, and George, who's this massive big brown snake. And we give everyone names. Everyone's got a name, but there's no. I wouldn't, if I had to choose to save an animal, I don't think I could choose just one. Yeah. At this point, I think probably bilbies, because there's 80% of them have disappeared, and they're basically, they used to be across 80% of Australia, and there's only 5 man-made colonies of them left. So that would be probably one I'd like to get involved with. But then, God, this is going over 60 seconds, isn't it? That's right. There's a Cox and Fig Parrot, which I've kind of in an inadvertent way have probably helped to save. Yeah. Because I kind of took a punt that maybe they migrate between sort of North Brisbane and up my way, and I thought I might be a little too far north for them, but they didn't know anything about them, and they looked like they were extinct, and a guy saw one sort of out near Caboolture, and everybody laughed at him until another guy saw it. Yeah. And they went, oh, holy cow, they're not extinct. So they didn't know enough about them, but they knew that they eat little figs. So I just thought, I'm just going to plant a heap of little figs and see if they turn up. And I had a bird guy out my way, and he went, oh my goodness, I think that's a Cox and Fig Parrot. And I'm like, I think that's the one I'm trying to save. Fantastic. So, yeah. I don't think I could save one. I like big animals. So give me an elephant, giraffe, anything big, tiger, any of those. I mean, none of them are on Australian soil, but yeah, I'll save anything.
You look after them.
Well, you're right. We'd sort it out.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for being our guest today. And is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to bring up and put out there?
I guess I probably, if I could say to people, don't the softly approach. We probably left that in the revision mirror 15 years ago. Yeah. I think we've got 5 years to turn this around. And I want people to, if they take nothing else away from me besides the fact that I do poo, if people can really start to educate themselves and not just sit around and be educated, but actually take some big actions. If I could get 10% of the population to take big action, we could make a little bit of a difference. If we could get 90% of the population to take big actions, by golly, we won't be looking at our grandkids saying, I'm sorry. Yeah. and I'm determined that I don't want to have that conversation with my grandchildren, then I knew it was coming and I did nothing about it. I want to be able to look at them and say I knew it was coming and I did everything I could.
Yeah. There you go. Because we didn't do anything yesterday, you've got to do something today because tomorrow's too late.
And that's exactly it. Yeah. We've such a small window of opportunity and we're in a world of hurt if we don't take it.
Yeah. Naomi, thank you so much. And to everyone, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you gained something out of all of what I just said. And if you need to get hold of me in any form or fashion, of course, I'm on Super Dooper Poo on Facebook, so give us a yell. Thank you, and thank you for listening. Bye.